I was fearing for my life, and at this point I was genuinely scared that I was going to die. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So this is the second part to the video. I have just finished filming part 1. I wanted to finish part 2, but as I was aware that the video for part 1 and probably part 2 was getting extraordinarily long, I did not want to make a 50-minute video.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Yeah.
So before we get started, I just want to do the usual disclaimer. So for stories like this, I want to mention that this is going to be involving bullying, it's involving drowning, assault, police, and just mentions of violence sometimes in general. So if you don't feel like you are in the right headspace to watch this video, then please go look after yourself, and I shall see you in another one. That she had just whacked me in the stomach, and I just did not know what was going on. I did not know why, and I didn't expect it. So I have fallen to the ground because I've been winded, I'm in pain, and then I don't know how, but I managed to stand up really briefly. And at this point, Beth has then decided to go for another punch because she wants to obviously, you know, hurt me. And Lily at this point has then stood in the way. Lily has gone in between myself and Beth, and she has turned to Beth. She has looked her in the eyes and she has said, "Beth, no, go home." And for me, I have never heard Lily stand up that much. Yes, she would stand up for herself and she'd tell Beth to stop being so stupid or so silly or to stop annoying her or something like that, but she'd never been this like assertive to Beth. And I think she just at that point and in that moment saw that Beth was in the wrong and that I was the one who needed her support. So Beth has then walked away, and she's walked her separate ways, and she's gone back to, you know, her house. And you know, me and Lily have kind of, you know, Lily's helped me to stand up, and then she took my arm, like she's kind of took her arm in mine, like interlinked our arms, and then she's helped me, she's carried my bag, and we've got back to her house. When we got back to her house, I borrowed Lily's phone and I called my parents. I told them exactly what had happened, and at this point my dad and my mum were just like, "What, really? Like, she's just done this, she's just hit you?" Like, they were aware of all of the issues with like the hitting across the top of the shoulders, and there was points at school where I would refuse to go in. So at that point, my parents, you know, they heard the whole story, and then they basically gave me 3 options. They said they could either come pick me up right there and then, they would literally leave right away and then come pick me up, and that meant that I would miss out on the circus and I'd miss out on the sleepover, and that I wouldn't have this time with Lily. And the second option was that I could go to the circus, and then they'd pick me up in that evening, later on in that evening, and I would, you know, miss out on the sleepover, but I'd still get to go to the circus. The third option was that I would continue plans as normal and I would be okay. And they reassured me the fact that I would be okay, and that Beth was probably just very angry at that point, and she had got out her aggression, and they just did not think she would do anything more, like especially at that particular like period of time. They didn't think she would do any more. So I thought about it, and initially I said I just want to come home, and then my parents convinced me to go with option 2, which was to go to the circus and then to get picked up that evening. They said, "Don't miss out on this because of some silly individual who can't control their anger. Like, go and do things that you enjoy, and go and spend some time with your friend because you want to. Show her that you can be big enough to still do this event with your friend, and that you're not scared of her, basically." So even though I'm absolutely terrified, I've gone, okay, I'm gonna go to the circus and I'm going to just kind of hope that she doesn't do anything and she's not there. For as far as I was aware, Beth was not going to the circus, and actually she didn't turn up as far as I'm aware. So she, you know, obviously went home and did whatever she had to do. I don't think she saw a problem with what she'd done. So at this point, you know, I'd gone to the circus, I'd come back to Lily's house, my parents had then picked me up. And when we got back home to my house, my parents called the police. We called the police on 101, and we basically discussed it with the operator about as to what had happened and the fact that I'd been assaulted, and that, you know, that we needed someone to come and take a statement because, you know, this had been happening for a while, like not this serious, but it had been happening, and we needed someone to basically come in and do a statement so then we could actually move forward with things, because it was now getting out of hand. So the police came out the next morning and they took a statement from me, and then I believe, and as I wasn't there obviously when they arrested Beth, I did not know exactly what happened, but as far as I was told, they went out to Beth's house and they arrested her and they asked her to come to the station to to give a statement basically about what had happened and tell her version of the events. So in this particular statement, Beth cried apparently, and I have not heard the recording, but apparently she cried and she apologised and she had lots of things to say about it, and she was very remorseful and always bits and pieces. So she went into this interview and she said all these things, and I could not, for one, when I was told about this, I could not believe that she'd broken down and cried. Never saw Beth cry. But, you know, it was what it was. She might have regretted her actions. And this is when I kind of thought, okay, if she's regretted her actions, then we'll give her the benefit of the doubt and we'll let her off with a warning. So between me and my parents, we decided that letting her off with a warning was probably the best action, as even if we did take it to court, there was not really enough evidence to be able to press charges, because Lily had decided not to give evidence against me or Beth, or give evidence towards this investigation at all, even though she was there, because she didn't want to be seen as taking sides. And I completely can understand that now, but at the time I didn't understand it, and at the time I wish that she would have given a statement, but I had to respect her wishes, and I now completely understand. As an adult, I understand her not wanting to take sides. So this particular incident was over, and to be completely honest, you know, she was given a warning, but she was also told that because she was under the age of 18 when this actually happened, that when she turned 18, then this cautionary warning for a juvenile thing would not matter. So when she turned 18, apparently it was wiped. And, you know, at that point, you know, you kind of think, well, you know, she's assaulted someone. All the tapping across the shoulder and the name calling, that stopped for about 6 months, and that was the best 6 months of my schooling. I was able to knuckle down, I was able to actually, you know, understand my learning and actually focus on my learning rather than focusing on what Beth was doing and living in fear basically of going to school. I was able to actually kind of get on and do what I had to do. So about 6 months after this incident and after the police had been involved, I was due to go to a swimming club. So my local swimming club centre place had this party, and basically they would do a swimming club party type thing every fortnight for under 18s. So you'd get into swimming costumes, you'd go, they'd put the weight machine on, they'd put all the latest music on, they would basically just have lifeguards there and you'd have a good time. This particular incident happened when, you know, at a particular week when I had never gone to this party thing before because I was always scared of Beth, but my parents had convinced me to go. So I went along with Lily, and Beth was there, but to be honest, Beth was just kind of doing her own thing, and I thought, okay, it's fine, it's not going to be an issue. It got to the end of the party, and basically what happened was the lifeguard shooed everyone out the water, and me and Beth were the last people to leave the water. We both of us got to the point where we were ankle deep in water, and then Beth turned around to me and she gave me the most evil, like just aggressive look, and then she started chasing me. So what am I gonna do? Like, I tried to then go round her to then cut, sort of like avoid the situation, but she's then blocked my way and she's decided to chase me back into the water. So I've had to go into the water and swim. And it's at this point where I'm trying to think of a plan as to what to do, because the only way I can go is the deep end, and I'm thinking, okay, there's a stairs near the end of the deep end. Let's try and get to those stairs, and then let's try to hold on to those stairs, or at least hold on, if not kind of get myself out the pool with those stairs. So I've gone and I've tried my hardest to get to these stairs, but Beth was swimming faster than me, I suppose. So even though I was ahead of her at the start, she managed to grab hold of my legs and pull me under the water. At this point, I did not know what I was going to do. She was pulling me under the water. She was then working her way up my body. So from my thighs, my legs pulling me under, to then sort of up my body, to then pushing me down from the shoulders. And at this point, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was fearing for my life. And at this point, I was genuinely scared that I was going to die, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I did not have a plan. I was under the water, and as you can imagine, I've taken a bit of a breath before I've gone under, and I'm under the water and she's holding me down by the shoulders, And if someone is holding you down by the shoulders, you don't really fully have the range of movement in your arms, because wherever you're moving your arms from elbow up is in your shoulders. And she was really pressing down on my shoulders. And as I said, I feared for my life, and I feared for, like, to die. Basically, I didn't want to die. I might have been depressed, but I didn't want to die, and not at this point in my life anyway. And at this point, I was like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm quickly running out of oxygen, and I can feel myself going quite shaky, and like I know I need to get up to the surface. So I'm struggling, and I'm trying to push her off me with my arms, and that's not working. So then I think, okay, the only thing I can do is I can shove her off with my leg. But it took so much effort. And because I was like lacking in energy, and I'm trying to pull my leg up through the water to then pull it up high enough to then push her off of me with my leg, it took so much effort because I was feeling faint and feeling dizzy under this water from the lack of oxygen. So I have given Beth a shove in the stomachy, torso-y area. I don't even know where I managed to get her off, but I gave her this shove and I pushed her off of me. And at this point, she has let go, and I could not get to the surface of that water quick enough, let me tell you. I could not get to the surface and take a deep breath quick enough. I was so lacking in oxygen that I just needed to get up to the surface. I got up to the surface, and because I gasped, because I was obviously needing oxygen, I then swallowed some water, and I was coughing and I was spluttering, and I didn't know fully what I could do. Beth has now swam off. She's fled from the situation, and she's decided that she is no longer going to partake, or whatever she's decided. I have no clue. She's walked off, and I'm left there kind of struggling in this deep end with lacking of oxygen, and I'm shaking and I'm coughing, and I've slowly managed to swim back to the shallow end, to get on all fours, to then crawl out of this pool through the very shallow end. I then managed to get myself seated on a ledge and then stood up. But even now, even at this point, I am shaking because I'm still in this fight or flight mode, and I am really scared and off my wits and stuff. So I've slowly taken myself, and I've tried to go to the changing rooms. Out of nowhere, Beth has popped out, and she has gone, "Don't you dare tell anyone." And I am so scared, I cannot utter a word, and the only thing I can do is nod my head. From that day forth, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell a single soul until I was 17 years old, so about 5 or 6 years after it happened. And at this point, people were just, when I first started talking about it, they were just like, that must have been so traumatic for you. And it was. And I don't know how I managed to deal with it, but I think at some point my brain had just kind of processed it and had kind of put the fear to the back of my mind. And I don't know exactly how I dealt with it at the time, but I was able to go into school like literally that weekend, the next week afterwards, and I kind of dealt with it, I suppose. But that is kind of where my mental health decided to take a turn from the worst. And I was 12 years old, I was, slowly declining. I didn't need help at this particular point in time, but I was still kind of in and out of this like depressive, anxious sort of phase. So I was about 17, and I remember it quite clearly because I was actually admitted to my first psychiatric ward admission. And this is where I told one of the counsellors in confidence that I would basically, there was this attempted murder that had happened, and, I, was nearly drowned to death by a bully. And she was shocked, and she was, she actually got the police involved at that point. But there was very little that the police could do because obviously with it being so many years after it happened, there was very little that they could do. I wasn't in contact with Beth anymore. I'd completely left school, and yes, I was left with all these mental health issues because of Beth and because of a lot of other things, but I, wasn't seeing Beth anymore. There was no contact from her, so there was nothing to protect me from as such. And because of that, the police decided that there was no action. I did have a recorded video and voice interview because of it, and that went really well, but at the end of the day they decided not to go any further with the investigation. So fast forward on to today. Obviously I'm making this story, I'm making this video, and the biggest message I want to get across is that bullying is real. and bullying is serious. When people hear bullying, I think a lot of the time people go, oh, it's just bullying. And, oh, but, you know, it's only a bit of name calling. There's nothing really wrong with that. But I want to raise awareness for the fact that bullying can be the start of a really long journey into a horrendous mental health journey. And it can be, it doesn't mean it has to be, but it can be. And for me, I then spent over 8 years of my life struggling with mental health because of all the trauma that I'd experienced. And I am going to end this video here, but that is basically the story of how a bully tried to drown me, and how a bully nearly killed me, how a bully nearly like ended my life, and how I would have not possibly been here talking to you guys. So I'm so grateful that I am actually able to be sitting here today telling you this story and raising awareness for a good cause. If you would like to hit that subscribe button down below, then please feel free to do that. If you've made it this far, then please comment a heart. Comment a yellow heart. I don't know why, but I'm wearing yellow, so let's comment a yellow heart if you've made it this far. And if you subscribe my channel, it doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to me, and I'll be able to then spread the awareness to more and more people and really get my message across that this journey is the journey that I want to go on. I want to be able to inspire people and to be able to help people in their journey into accepting themselves for who they are and accepting their life for how it is and getting the help that they need. As I said, like this video, leave a yellow heart in the comments if you made it this far, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye.